of the First Responder Playbook. It's my pleasure to welcome our new guest, Johnny Tesone. He's a geologist, author, and creator of the Geo Vortex with more than 30 years of professional experience in geology, corporate leadership, and field research. Trained at the University of Wyoming with a bachelor's in geology, Johnny brings a rare combination of technical credibility and paradigm shifting discoveries. Johnny, thanks for joining me tonight. It's my pleasure to have you.
Hey, Brent, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm sure we're going to be able to talk about a lot of things. But when I saw the title of your book, First Responder, it kind of triggered something. I was telling you a little bit earlier. But I wrote this book last year. I kind of finished it last year. But it was 5 years of discovery beyond the corporate BS when I was checked out and I got out of the business during COVID. And so the last 5 years, I wrote this book called Secrets of the Winds. Okay. And this is the cover. This is how it looks. There's a rocket coming out of the earth. This is literally what I found in the fossil record in my
Wow.
journey being a geologist and spending so much time in the mountains and fishing all my life and camping and four-wheeling and just astute to all that. So I've always kind of been tuned in, but it wasn't until I think like COVID, I had an out-of-body experience on the river, up in the mountains in the Wyoming, all by myself, way up there. And I'm telling you, it was I think I was always being prepared for the download, but that was the day. That day hit me. I started seeing some. Well, that feeling was like 2 minutes. Felt like I was just lifted by a big hand off the bank of the river and just like weightless. Okay, and things were just really synchronizing with me. That like the it was just beautiful. It was just incredible. So after that, I broke down. I broke down and gathered myself, and lo and behold, I look up the river and I see some outcrops I've never seen before. I've seen them before, but not like that. Okay, so my perspective in the world changed. I think I collapsed a time and crossed paths maybe with a kindred Indian spirit up there is sometimes how I feel about things. Okay, so with that, it turned in it just turned into seeing these outcrops I've never seen before. So I looked at them at camp that night, and I was awestruck what I was seeing. Bears and fish and Indians and just blocks and geometry and just nothing I've ever studied before ever looked like that. And knowing where it is, it's really old stuff. It's really old. Where I know I was fishing, camping, and where I was in the canyon, it was really old already. So coming out of that, I started just finding more stuff, Brent. So when I say that, it was in the rock. I was finding stuff that wasn't dolomite or limestone that I've seen lots of times being in my field, how it looks in a microscope. They leave certain crystals. All of them do. They have a signature, right? So as a geologist, we have to look for signatures of things that repeat that tell us what's the chemical makeup. And then once the chemical makeup, we start understanding the source where it came from. Was it wind? Was it ocean water? Was it fresh water? Was it volcanic? Was it extraterrestrial, right? Was it an event? Was it a meteor? So I'm not predisposed to where it comes from. So geologists we just go for it, right? We just start finding stuff. And there's a lot to find, and I found a lot of stuff in the fossil record. And so going to school in Wyoming, Nima, I had some of the best professors, both in anthropology and also in geology. They were the pioneers. These guys are old school rock hounds. George Gill was a worldwide famous anthropologist. I had him. I'll circle back to that, but back to the story is that this has come so far, and I've continued to learn more stuff. I'm going to continue to write probably 2 to 3 more books. So Geo Vortex is the name of the business that I started based on what I saw, how I felt, the Geo Vortex, everything coming together, kind of what this all came together as. And so geologists only usually get paid, and researchers only get paid when they get grants or they invent something and patent it and sell it, right? How to commercialize. So I'm saying, well, I'm not going to be able to sell my bones. I'm not going to be able to sell this stuff individually on eBay and on so what it was, I said, I got to have a business that is my intellectual property that I'm putting my books in, I'm putting my merch in, I'm putting my library. So I'm building up my portfolio. I'm going to be submitting a bunch of white papers, science abstracts, because this is all science. It's new science. But it's also spiritual. It's where the conscious now meets the science. And that's the awakening I'm having. And that's what I'm saying. So back to my initial thought was, first responders, it's like they're leaders, right? You got to be leaders and take initiative, but you got to be the first one. So as a geologist, I was the first responder out on the well site. So the geologists out on the well site and all my crews that worked and my experience we were the first responders on every well site. H2S, mud gas, oil, dry hole, wet hole. So we had to find what was coming out of the hole and log it. So we had to see the first indications and see the gas chromatograph and know the balances of the certain gases, and then also where you're at in the Rockies or Alaska or Texas or Oklahoma or whatever state. You kind of knew where you're at, but sometimes you have to be able to understand there's high pressure. You have to be able to mud up, and so it doesn't blow the hole out, right? So that role is really, really important, although it's not as glamorous as it is maybe being the driller or anything like that. It's a key point of it. So through that and through my training and what I'm learning now and what I understand about Gaia, the Mother Earth, right? What I understand about this beautiful thing is it's alive and well with an extraterrestrial specimen that came in, brought our water, created who we are. And it's so magnificent and it's so big. My story keeps going because I keep learning it. It's almost, it take hours to tell you what I found. So that's why people write books, right? My first coffee table book's 400 plus pages, but it's mostly about the pictures that I found that tell the story. Are you tracking, Brent? So it's not for geologists or scientists, it's for everybody. And it's kind of like how I found it in my personal story, but also as a geologist and what I've learned and what I've seen, and Google Earth is a great tool now because of the high resolution, but also the time lapse and the data is incredible for geologists and me and earth scientists, because not only can I see the trends from 1985, I can see when the acceleration triggered to accelerate the surface transformation process. So I was able to see over 40 years, the last 15 years, spinning faster with the processes that I've seen that have come in. And so what I'm saying is, since I've recreated the past with the rock record and put it in my book, and illustrated it with hard evidence, both in my hand and, you know, finding these cool gems that cut glass that are perfectly round and have an edge. It's organic. There's nothing metal or silicon in it. It's just a beautiful piece. These are the kind of things I find. This is a super alloy that I found called tesonite. So this is as light as a feather, but if you look, see how it disappears? It's so thin. It's so thin, it disappears. Look at that.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
That's really cool.
It's as light as a feather. So I'm saying, I found this, and I find this stuff in the field with my experiments, and I find things, and so my story is so far advanced that. So I'm telling you, I've seen the past. I've recreated it. I got a little AI, but the AI is more about me telling AI, programming AI. Okay, because I'm telling AI what I need. AI is not telling me how to think or what I need to program. I'm telling AI, I need to create an event that do, boom, 4 images. Okay, so I've been using AI for about 2 years. When it first got started, I've seen the maturity, but I have a very specific need for it that AI is perfect for. Perfect for. So with that, as I've seen the past, the future is who are going to be our first responders for the world, right? Who are going to be the first responders when the world? And so what I'm saying is, now that I've seen indicators in certain parts of the world of zones of more geological activity, more deformation on the surface, more acceleration of the metal, because this is a metal that's everywhere in the world. And this is a metal that's ubiquitous and covers our planet. But it's a function of the alloying process, of the mechanical function of the rocket species that I've found. So what I'm telling you is big stuff, but it's fundamental because people need to understand it because no one does. It's fundamental science. There's been such a gap because all the good geologists all went into the oil and gas business, Brent. Okay, it's all the smart guys like me. We went and chased all the big companies for the big paychecks, but I was just a bachelor's of science. You know, I was competing with the PhDs and the masters and those guys. So I had to be smarter in the field. I had to be smarter in the field and really know how to read the logs and the rocks and the subtleties of the basins and the seismology. But the ties to our cosmos, our interstellar neighbors, both in our solar system, is remarkable. So my conclusion of the book is I've found this extraterrestrial species that's brought everything we are and what we have, created all the great, fantastic things, but they also have a purpose. I mean, they don't want that. This is them. So when nuclear, it hurts them. It physically hurts and kills them when a nuclear blast goes off. So they're going to thwart every issue they have with nuclear radiation because it can proliferate in the species. So there's some magnificent things that can come out of learning about the Earth. Okay, so there's some incredible things. Things about Antarctica, sea levels, rising oceans, heat anomalies that could change. Going back to Ice Age. So you got to understand, we run in cycles, right? It's not like linear and things like that. We go in cycles. The Earth changes and the Moon changes, and we go through cycles. And so, Earth is coming to a 26,000 cycle of rotation back to magnetic, changing its force. So we're going to be experiencing a lot in the next 5 years. They're going to be incredible. Absolutely.
So
incredible.
I have a ton of questions. So I'm just going to start back at the beginning. the out of body experience. How did it start, and kind of explain the whole process of what happened for the listeners?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there was I think there was a I was going through I was walking and coming out of the river, so I think I was a little bit hypoxiated, and catching my breath, and I think sometimes you have a little vertigo. Sometimes you get up fast, or you walk, because I remember coming off the river, and then I sat down, and it's like I was caught. It was like, ooh. So right then I felt like, ooh, like I was dizzy. But then dizzy came into a sensation. The dizziness came into a not a confusion. Okay. So when you spin around and you're kind of wobbly, you feel kind of weird, but you're still wobbly. I wasn't wobbly. So I felt like this peaceful, light feeling. So I think it came about, but I also think it came about because, there's quantum physics behind people being in a place in a past or future time where, particle physics now and quantum physics, there's a lot of that demonstration where you can communicate in different times in different places in the universe, and two particles can be connected. And so there's a lot of that parallel and that mirroring, that sacred geometry I believe in. So I think it's only going to be for the very rare people that have the mind, because remember, so back to your question. I think I was always meant to find this. So I was always destined to kind of be at that spot, because I didn't even know, I hit ninth grade, and all of a sudden I loved algebra, and I became an algebra whiz. And it was just amazing to me, and because it was like, didn't expect it. So I'm just saying, I think it just kept led into that time. That's why it hit me so hard, because it was so, I mean, it was so earthbound, and I was just, like I said, I think I've been going up to the Wind Rivers for going on 4 decades, right? So I've been going in this backcountry and talking to the Indians, and they tell me the stories of the little people, and some of my friends' grandparents tell me of the little people, and this is what I found. It's in my book. I found in these lakes and these basins that lore that all indigenous people talk about. So I was destined to be there. And I was ready. I was prepped through my education, through my experience.
So let me ask you this, because I've always been fascinated by the extraterrestrial topic. Yeah, a lot of times, when people say they have out of body experiences or missing time, contact, stuff like that. Did you ever have anything growing up that was like out of the norm that you can't explain like that as well, or do you feel like this was the first time?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a good question. Up until I was 6 years old, I was pretty convinced I was an Indian. Okay, I was just pretty convinced I had a past life as an Indian. And vivid. I mean, I love to shoot and bow and arrows and fish and rocks, do all that. My dad taught. We went out in the field and found arrowheads and grinding stone. I mean, I loved all that stuff. So I think I was already wired. I think I was already part of it. And that's why I'm so accustomed to continue. But now I learned the geology part of it, by the way, which no historians and no mystics, no artists, no literates, none of the philosophers ever through time had the geology that put it all together. So the whole thing is, and what I'm saying is, there's been math, but there's been archaeology, tons of archaeology now, biology, but there hasn't been this big gulp of new geology that brings all of the extraterrestrial, brings the Egyptians, brings us everything together. UFOs brings Antarctica. It brings all of it together with what I found in the fossil record with what I can show people now. And I can go, you want to see a Stargate on Google Earth? I can show them. You want to see how big Yellowstone is? So the things I find like Yellowstone, have no idea how big Yellowstone is. It's about the super compaction theory that I concluded I found in the geological rock record when I was watching Oppenheimer, when I was actually watching the movie. It hit me because I had the pipe and I had the bomb and I had the pressure and the heat and I had the incredible understanding that so much rock in life can fit in such a small piece of this earth that came from such a difference and can bring all that water and everything carried and then create such a beautiful planet that we have is just something that's out of this. It's incredible.
So I'm far from an expert in the field. Like I said, I've always been kind of fascinated with the topic, but we'll definitely say I'm on the amateur side of things for sure. But I've always heard about like ley lines and like these events being tied into like different geologic features, like different minerals they may be looking for inside the earth or specific formations that have been built across. Because I mean, you see pyramids in Egypt, you see them in South America, Central
You bet.
America.
All over.
Do you think that all these are all tied together? Like,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you touched on it a little bit, like the nuclear stuff. And if you look back over the past 60 years, since nuclear power has really taken off, and you look up UFO sightings, they're all around nuclear facilities, where we store nuclear bombs. I was actually just watching a documentary the other day on like when we almost went to World War III because some nuclear sites got armed, mysteriously when they saw a UFO. So like these things have happened, and the information has
I
been
mean,
very guarded and slowly getting out there. But do you think that like it's all tied back to stuff like this?
I do because what I found is the master component. It's the master. It's the master key because it's so big. It's so pervasive. It's what it is. We're just tiny little bodies, but I'm telling you, our conscious is huge on this earth. It's huge. And
So
when I say that, because it just is, because there's a
so
different
let me
time now.
ask you this: when people think extraterrestrial, you said you found these extraterrestrial beings. Are we talking about like organisms? Or are we talking about like another race of like, I don't want to call them people, but there's people who've had interactions. So
It's
there's grays. There's
original animals and the original humanoids that are
okay.
extraterrestrials. Okay.
So do you think that they are interdimensional, or do you think that they're here with us in this time and space? I have so many questions. I'm sorry. I'm kind of getting you distracted because I have a ton of questions.
Um, they're multi-dimensional. Are they interdimensional? It has different connotations. I want to say multi-dimensional because the physical spectrum by which you can see them is limited to humans because they carry a spectrum out of 100%. We only see them less than 0.02% because there's a spectrum of light. So what I'm saying is with Google Earth and with my skills, I was able to capture enough photonic change. And when my eyes captured and saw, I was able to collapse the image of seeing what these impact craters look like when they hit on Google and see it repeated. So once my mind saw it, I could know what I was looking for, and then I could find it again. Then I went on to the next process. Well, how did they land? How did they create all the dams? What are their land? So I started finding the landing structures. I started finding the mechanisms by which they landed. So my stuff is validated over and over and over because it's such a fractal species, right? It's in the 500 micron organic life, because I did have a lot of my specimens tested, and they all have carbon. Okay, they all have carbon. There's all carbon. There's nitrogen, but there's a metal here. There's a different metal here. This is a super metal. I told you. This is a rocket alloy. This is the intergalactic rocket alloy that brought us all the technology we ever need for humans. So we live on Earth that we is infinite energy, infinite water, infinite land, enough for everybody to go around, and infinite resources and food and abundance and everything. And we're trapped in this prism of such small thinking. I'm convinced I'm here to share with people how big and how awesome humans are in an awesome world, and they're not going to believe my pictures. They're not going to believe it because it's going to go.
Do you think these beings live here within the Earth, or do you think they come from space?
Well, there's going to be a lot of Earth's fairly popular, right? Pretty popular with, Lemurians, Arcturians, there's all kinds of different Palladians. There's all kinds of history, the early Anunnaki. I mean, there's no hiding all the great data that we've had about all that. So I think there's always been extraterrestrials here. And I think some of them different trades, star seeds and people like that. And, I know things that no one else knows. I mean, certain people know things that are out of this world, right? I mean, like stuff I can't believe, like finding the Eye of Horus in geology, right? The Eye of Ra, and seeing that, and I find it in the geology. This is what I'm saying. It's become a point where there's so much to bring forward that explains that the Egyptians knew that those pyramids were resonance chambers to launch their afterworld. And that was a resonance all around the world because of our souls. And so that technology came from whoever, right? And whatever. But what I'm talking about is the geological extraterrestrial that brought the water that penetrated Mother Earth when it was hot and ripe and red and flaming. The rocket landed. I have the rocket documented in my book. It's over 5,000 miles long. It's on Google Earth, and I can trace it for any PhD around the world, and I can see the flood zone. So I've traced all that, and I've counted all the material that was flushed out. You can see the flush on the bottom of the ocean. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
So where is this located at?
Well, it's 5,000 miles, covers half of the world, but the tips are Hawaii and the French Polynesian Islands.
Okay,
So
and that's a big area.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's huge. So, but so you have the mothership, and then that brings, and that creates a different set of land, right? So there's land, but there's water. So everything's flooded. Everything's underwater for a long, long, long time because the earth is inundated and it's changing. And so it's going through its process. And then over time, it creates the Yellowstone formation. I call it the Yellowstone bomb. That is a fundamental geological phenomenon that people need to understand how our continents were formed, where it came from. So I can trace all the continents and how they were connected in our Antarctica and how it turned over in South America and turned over North America and Antarctica on the map. You can see how that turned it over. It's fascinating. So what I'm talking about is there's a master species that's an organic rocket species. Okay, so it's a living species that uses water both to create its world and combust and internalize chemistry, but it also uses, because it's a rocket fuel. Water's a rocket fuel, right? Oxygen and hydrogen. So what I've also seen are the blueprints of how their rockets are made. I've seen all that. I have that demonstrated. So it's a sophisticated rocket species that came here, created it, and then, like I said, this leads to a lot of other geological phenomenons that people have struggled with, that now I can explain, about the Great Unconformity, the Cambrian explosion, snowball Earth, and all the mass extinctions, because this extraterrestrial species created the Earth, created the oceans, created the life, fed on the life, fed on the Earth, both land and ocean, and always cycled through consuming, and all. That's why there's so many cycles of mass extinctions. No one's ever been able to figure out, well, the Earth changed. Well, of course there's always change, but there's always a biological process that's geological embedded in that. And you'll see what these creatures look like. I've named them. I mean, they are organic. It's a super species. It's the super species. It's
Wow.
the Bigfoot's a holdover. The swamp creatures are the holdover. The Loch Nesses are holdovers. I've seen these in Argentina, and I've seen them in Wyoming. The creatures that have the bows and stuff. It's all explainable, and they're super reclusive, and they live with the water, so they crystallize in it, and they're a plasma. So when they're in water, they're even more disguisable. It's not until they get on land and stuff where I can see them forming and I can see them replicating. But it's a vast topic, my friend, vast for you.
Yeah, and if you dive deep into Bigfoot, because that's probably my favorite one, um, there are a lot of people that do tie it to the UFO phenomena, and
Well, it's not
you
necessarily UFOs. It's about the physical. It's about the physical beings that look like Bigfoot that I found, that are small, that are 3 feet tall. So it's all the same things: big humans, small humans, big creatures, little creatures. They're still around. Okay, there's just big humans couldn't hide anymore. Big humans had to be smaller to be able to do things differently. We couldn't, so there's been a massive amounts of, things aren't just linear in our world. And humans, our DNA is changing. Our world is changing our DNA is changing with the world, because it has to, right? So
let me ask
it
you
has
this,
to.
because on the Bigfoot topic, I mean, when you talk about you were talking to me, it sounded like you're talking a little bit about cloaking a little bit, because they're that's what it sounded like to me, and I could be
Well,
wrong on that.
I've seen cloaking in the actual crystals that I've captured on airports mostly, and on the highways, cloaking, where there's an image and it's usually like a big plane, and you can see geological, you can see it cloaking, or you can see it disappearing and phasing. So yes, there's a lot of that, and but I think that the phenomenon about Bigfoot, though, is that species. I call it the Infinitas nimerigerus, and then I call Bigfoot gigantus. I've actually found the bones. I've reached out to the biologists on the History Channel that talk about, God, if we only had the evidence of the bones. I'm like, hello, doctor from Boise State. Hey, my name's this. Here's my videos. Do you want to test it for DNA? Because dude, I've seen it, all of it. I've rebuilt their whole skeletons, because I have so much data. I've put all the bones together. I've seen how they dig. I've felt their microscopic darts in my elbow and how painful it was. And I've seen how their mouths blow saliva out and create it's a magnificent, incredible species. Incredible. But they're here, the small species is here to manipulate the surface to keep rebuilding the rockets that are a part of this world already, that have already landed, that have come through cycles and cycles of time. So then they first landed, so they came in major, and then they planted, and they started coming in, and then now they come up. So Argentina and parts of Wyoming, I've seen them where the bombs are coming up. So there's a different extinction period. I don't know exactly what period that is, but that's the other things I'm tracking. The events are tied to the species. The species are tied to the, to the world and the cycle. So that's all integrated. So back to your question. Back to your question is that I can't speak and can't show evidence of a Palladian or talking to a blue Arcturian guy with me in my room or anything. What I can show you is I can show you how they probably got here. I can show you how they probably hitched a ride or their cousins in another Stargate. Dude, I'm telling you, what I've seen on the Earth, I can tie into James Webb Telescope and Hubble. I mean, that beautiful pillar of life shot from Hubble. It's what I found in the Earth. James Webb Telescope. Last September, all those pictures came in. They're in my book. I had to rewrite my last chapter because there's so much correlation with this, our Earth, and what I've seen in the cosmos, and on Venus and on Mars, from what I found, and just out in space from amateurs. So it's a massive, pervasive species. It's not harmful. It's our responsibility to know it and to take care of it, because it's us. It's what's made us. Because I think our DNA is billions of years old. So
Awesome.
It's just one of those.
So I want to touch on the
you have one
alloy a
of
little
those.
bit. I want to touch on the alloy a little bit.
Yeah.
Where did you find that at? And is that something that like everybody knows about, or is this something new? Because I mean, you talk about like Roswell, for example. They talk about alloys that bend and then pop back in place and stuff like that. Is it similar to that, or is that kind of like what we're talking about? Or I have
Well, that was
a lot of
that was the physical ship they found as is, right? So that stuff is there for them to touch and feel, because it just came out of a different flight, right? And it crashed, and they found that metal performing at a function at
Mhm.
a certain at a level, right? They found it propulsing, and they found it igniting and crashing. So there was a phase change. And I don't dispute what they found at all. What I can share, what I'm telling you is, I found evidence of a super alloy metal that's in a certain phase that is unexplainable by modern flight, by modern scientists, because what I tested, there's nothing like it, and how it's so light, right? So it's as light as a feather. I mean, it's as light as a feather. It's down here somewhere. But and then I did the study of it. So what I started finding when I looked at it in the microscope, super magnified, I started seeing a pattern. So when I start seeing the pattern, and I start seeing the dimensions 1 centimeter by 3 centimeters, and I start seeing the patterns, I named it fractalography. And what I mean by that, it's a word, I mean, that brings a lot of my background, but the fractal nature of how I see the superalloy twist in a certain pattern and fold within itself. And so when I started understanding the microscope scope, I started seeing on Google Earth, I started seeing the same pattern, I started seeing the same dimensions. I started finding I started finding different colors in Greenland, but they were all 1 mile by, they were all one mile by 3 miles, or they were all relative to the dimensions. There are 1 to 3 perfect ratios. And these things were slabs, huge slabs in Greenland. That's in my book. So this stuff is so visual. I want to express this for the people that aren't the geologists, the beauty and the repetitive nature and the things like that. And I don't know if you've ever been on Google Earth, but you can see alloying all over the earth. All over the earth now. Every pilot will tell you, they're not hay fields, they're not crop fields. There's too many. They're everywhere, and all these straight lines and these stacked lines, all the Mediterranean. It's all the metallic step. It's all the processing of what our earth is going through and changing. It's all a dynamic. It's what my book is. It's a freaking rocket blasting off. But it's fractal, so they all make up our earth and make up the mountains, and I call it rocket geology because it is. Yeah, and that's how history's made, my friend. Right
That's
here.
awesome. And again, I don't want to get too deep because I want people to buy your book. Where as we start to wrap up, where do you see yourself going next? But also, like, where can people get in contact with you, and where can they get your books at?
Hey, thanks for that question. Appreciate it. So, geovortex.net. That's my website. You will not see a cooler website anywhere, and I challenge you to do so. So on top of that, so if you go there, I'm building a library, and I'm offering the people that go there could get a hold of me on there, but I'm willing to throw in, if they want to get the library, they're gonna have all the books. For a one-time $150 lifetime membership, they're gonna get all my books. I'll throw in a freaking cool hoodie, because if you see my website and you go to Rocketware, that I made a complete merch line with the colored crystals that are the coolest freaking patterns that you'll see anywhere in any clothes. So I'm trying to build upon that. I'm trying to attract customers and audience, because it's not only the books and the science, but there's all this creativity that's coming out to show people. If you don't care about the geology, which is really cool, then you'll probably love how these patterns and these blues and these crystals look like that, because I think they're stunning. So I just want people to come check it out, ask questions. They're gonna learn things they're gonna keep with them the rest of their life. And what I'm telling you is, my next books are gonna be talking about how I'm incarnating and why I'm saying that, because of things I've seen that are so relative in my work now, but in my life that I'm seeing on Google Earth, Brent. It's crazy cool. It's crazy cool. I'm inviting everybody along for the ride, because it's one heck of a ride, and you're gonna love it.
That's
Promise.
awesome. Johnny, thanks for joining me tonight, and it's been my pleasure hosting you.
Hey, thanks, Brett. Cheers,
Thank
my
you.
friend. Bye-bye.